Funding for the production of Folks is made possible in part by a grant from Union National Life Insurance, serving Louisiana and the South since 1926. A family-managed corporation providing whole life insurance.
Straight ahead on Folks, what is an effective school formula and how does it work? Are there other ways to improve the quality of education for minority children and improve the effectiveness of their teachers? A look at those questions and more. We'll also visit La Belle Galerie in New Orleans, a one-of-a-kind art gallery that deals exclusively with the work of black artists, all on today's edition of Folks. Hello everyone and welcome to Folks. I'm Sonya Masingale. Who teaches your children, where they're taught, and what they will learn are the primary concerns for most parents. But few people give much thought to how the children are taught the 3 R's, and that's our lead story for today. There's a 6-point formula developed by educational researchers to improve the academic achievement of children in urban public schools with large minority enrollments. It's called the Effective Schools Formula, and it is in use at many public schools in Louisiana. But there are those who say that the Effective School Formula is not a completely sound plan for minority students and could stand some improvement. We visited Dalton Elementary School here in Baton Rouge, a predominantly black school where the principal and faculty work together to make the Effective School Formula successful for their students.
Dalton Elementary School is a single-race school with about 420 children. It varies from day to day. We have an add or a drop on any given day. But basically, it's a school where the faculty has made themselves a team where we are emphasizing the fact that all children can learn and they are here to learn, and we're going to see to it that they do. So I think that encompasses what our goals are, working toward the fact that every child who comes needs to have some success on a daily basis. And what I usually say to them when I'm on the intercom in the morning is, be certain that you learn something new today that you can share when you go back home and tell your parents about.
Alberta Jones has been principal of Dalton Elementary School for about 5 years. She says the Effective Schools Formula can work when it is adjusted to suit the needs of a particular school.
What is that? You have bears on your new outfit? I like it.
This is Martha Jordan's kindergarten academic readiness class. The children in this class have been tested and found to be very bright.
What do you have in your hand to share? Would you like to stand up here and show it to your friends?
Jordan's job is to enhance that natural ability and prepare them to excel academically. This program is fairly unique to a school such as Dalton, and one of which they're justifiably proud. But a program such as this could not work in an environment which was not supportive. The Effective Schools Formula is one which encourages a positive environment, although the instructors and principals often have to adjust the formula to suit the individual needs of the school.
As Mrs. Jones said, I think it takes teamwork. We work together as a team. She's a good leader. That's important. That's one of the correlates. School climate is very important, I think. I do think that the environment in the classroom, the attitude of the teacher, is going to affect the attitude of the students. And we have a very positive environment around Dalton. And I think that the important thing is that if they do develop this good self-concept, then the academics will come.
What's this?
Candy cane.
How much is the candy cane?
8 cents.
Okay, and this is what?
Gum. 10 cents.
Okay, let's think for a minute.
This is Vera Smith's second grade class at Dalton. Many of these students did not have the benefit of an academic readiness class prior to the first grade, but they are still given every chance to succeed. These teachers' aides are part of a federally funded Chapter 1 program which provides tutoring and in-class support for disadvantaged students who need help academically. Once a school qualifies for the Chapter 1 program, the teachers' aides may lend their assistance to all students who need help. Smith also points to the weaknesses of the effective school formula, but says they can be compensated for with a little special effort.
Many times we do have to create extra things in the classroom that may not be a part of formulas that have been set up for schools, perhaps nationwide or locally. And I was about to say that we try to establish the human aspect of our children. We work with children according to where they are, trying not to gear our lessons too high above them. We try to start with them where they are and bring them up. This may not be stressed as much as it should be. Then we have school-wide programs, which we also try and bring children's self-esteem up. We have Student of the Week a program for the students that they can be recognized in the classroom and school-wide for specific things that they may have done. We have different kinds of clubs. We have a math club where children can be recognized for being successful with that. And of course, they have all year that they can work on this. We have different activities in the classroom where we have reward systems. These things may not be addressed as much as they should be in the formula.
One of the things that I feel that we're doing, and it comes under the instructional focus, which is a correlate within the effective school movement. But one of the things that we're doing with teachers in our in-service is trying to look at ways that we can build success in the program. You know, within the classroom, the things that the children do, we want to make sure that they are successful because we think that's very important. So, teachers have incentives that they use to motivate them to the point where they feel successful with activities that they perform. And we also try very hard to make sure that children are working on their level, you know, so we find activities that they can do that are on their level, challenging enough, but yet not bringing them to frustration and failure. And to me, that's one of the things that we're stressing here, but I feel that it falls within the correlate of the instructional focus. We've shared in our in-service ways that teachers can compliment children, you know, 100 or so ways that they can say to them that they're doing a good job and that they are being successful, so that it doesn't become something that they're hearing the same statement over and over again, but yet it's encouraging the child to continue to do as well as he can do.
The effective school formula relies heavily on frequent, systematic evaluations of students, but Jones says that test scores are not the only method of evaluating their effectiveness.
At the end of the year, we take a very serious look as a faculty at what we've done and what strong points and weak points, and there's a specific instrument that we use to determine it. Teachers on a daily basis in their classroom evaluate each area of the curriculum to see how each child is doing and what progress each child is making on a daily basis and on a weekly basis. The entire emphasis is not on tests, you know, I'm happy to say. We look at test scores and we look at them for the sole purpose of trying to see where our weaknesses are. We have somebody either from staff development in the research department or our guidance counselor work with us at the beginning of the year looking at how we tested whenever the parish does the testing program, but mainly we look at the weaknesses that are general weaknesses at our school and see what we can do to work toward improving that. Teachers do their own testing within the classroom, and we check with parents and communicate with our parents to solicit their help in helping their children at home. The YWCA, which adopted us, has a tutoring program in the afternoon. We recommend students for that. We have had several tutoring programs here to help our students make progress. So we look at all of that to help us determine how successful we are in becoming an effective school, and then put our heads together to see where we're going to go from that. Of course, at the beginning of Last year, we drew up a mission statement which said what we were striving for within X number of years for our students here.
The 6 points or correlates of the effective school formula are strong leadership by the principal, high expectations for student achievement, emphasis on basic skills, an orderly environment, frequent systematic evaluation of students, and increased time on task.
Joining us in the studio to tell us more about the Effective Schools formula and how it works is Dr. Donald Hoover of the East Baton Rouge School Board. Dr. Hoover has been with the school board for 31 years. He is an Associate Superintendent of Instructional Services for East Baton Rouge Parish. Welcome to Folks.
Thank you.
Dr. Hoover, basically what we saw in the feature just now was a school that is working in spite of the fact that most of its students are underprivileged, that it's a predominantly one-race school, but it seems to work. Is that a direct result of the Effective School formula?
I think so. I really do.
Could you tell us a little something about how the Effective Schools formula came to be?
Well, I think it really started in the 60s with, I think about 1966, when a gentleman by the name of Coleman came out with a rather shocking report that basically stated that it didn't make much difference what a school did, that youngsters that came from homes that were affluent did well, and those that came from economically impacted areas did not do well, as a general rule, and that it didn't make much difference what a school system did or what a school did, is that's generally the pattern of the results, and that really shocked a lot of educators. And so a group of educators got together and said, we know of schools where these youngsters from economically impacted areas are doing extremely well, and we can prove that schools do make a difference.
And that's how it came to be. Those were the things that were involved in those schools that made them successful. Well, how did it come to be adopted in this parish?
Well, as we looked at the Effective Schools movement, we began to realize that some of the criticisms that came from the Coleman Report did in fact describe some of the attitudes in the system. That if we looked at our test scores, we saw children from economically impacted areas did not do as well as children from more affluent districts, and there was that big spread of test scores. So we looked at the definition of an effective school, and basically what that says is that there should be no significant difference in terms of achievement between one group of youngsters as compared to the other, that an effective school will overcome whatever obstacles that stand in the way of a youngster learning.
About how long has it been in the works here in our parish?
About 4 years. We started with 7 elementary schools as a pilot about 4 years ago, and the next year we expanded it to all of our schools, and I was a little anxious about that because I thought maybe we should expand it just maybe a little bit at a time, but it turns out that Dr. Ray Arvison was anxious for us to begin to move on this, and so we did. And the very first year we said to every school, you must develop a mission statement, and we described how that was to take place, so that it was not something that was handed down from on high that everybody must do. It's something that came from within the school. And we indicated to them that the mission statement should reflect what the school feels is important to happen to kids. And then we studied the different factors that go into making a school effective, the correlates that were mentioned by Mrs. Jones.
Okay, how can you tell that it's working in our schools?
Well, I think there are a lot of indirect measures aside from the direct measures.
Obviously, testing is the first, but
testing is the most
one.
obvious one, but there are a lot of other things that take place. You heard Mrs. Jones mention teamwork. You heard several of the teachers mention teamwork. That's what this is all about, and it goes beyond just the principal and the faculty. It's the custodian and the food service people. It's everybody. It's all the adults coming into that school, volunteers, adopters, school adopters for Adopt a School. It's everybody pulling together to accomplish something that they believe is important.
I didn't mention it, but that particular school has been adopted. I think
Yes,
they
it
have
has.
2 adoptive
That's correct.
agencies, and they're doing very well. It's enabled them to do some publishing. They publish a school letter, a weekly letter, and have some other activities that they might not elsewise afford. It seems that a lot depends on the individual teachers. Like you said, the adults coming together. What's the driving force that pulls that together? Is that the correlate that says the strong leadership from the principal?
Well, I think strong leadership is important, but I have to go back to the mission statement again. It's a matter of the principal as a leader saying, all right, people, what is important in this school? What is it that we want to happen to the youngsters we serve? If you read the Effective Schools literature, very little is said about self-esteem. You heard Ms. Jones mention self-esteem, that schools are about many things, and test scores is not the only thing that is important in judging how well a school is doing. And Ms. Jones recognizes that. But she and the rest of the faculty and all of the adults providing input into the mission statement help to decide what measurements they want to use to determine how well they're doing.
I mentioned at the beginning of today that most people are not as concerned with how their children are taught. How should parents evaluate the way their children are taught in the public schools?
You know, I think a lot has to do with the child's attitude about school. That's a pretty good reflection of how well the child is doing in school. Children who are doing well want to go to school. I think that's one indicator. I think the other is to get to the school and talk to the teacher and to the principal and see what's going on at the school. It's very important for the parent to be in the school.
But the basic measure is a happy child, someone who gets up in the morning going, oh boy, I can't wait to get to school.
I think that's a good indicator. It's not the only indicator, of course, but I think a youngster who feels bad about himself is not in a good position to be an active learner, at least learning the things that the school has deemed important for that child.
The formula mentioned increased time on task. Now, for us laypersons, what does that mean?
Well, so much of what goes on in a classroom is not instructional in nature. Just take, for example, when a youngster enters class first thing in the morning, there's lunch money to pick up, there's a roll to take, there's a lot of other things that teachers are asked to do as a part of everyday normal procedure that distracts from actual time on instructional tasks. And sometimes that is managed quite well, and teachers manage to get through the, I call it administrivia, get through that down to actual time on task, and others don't do so well. The neat thing about this is teachers have an opportunity to share with one another in better ways of doing that.
Is the Effective Schools formula working for East Baton Rouge Parish elementary schools?
Well, I think it's working for all of our schools. It's not just in the elementary schools. We have it in middle and high schools as well. I think we're moving in the right direction. I think we've seen an increase in test scores, which is a reflection of that. I have one concern that our suspensions and expulsions have not decreased significantly. I'm not sure whether our efforts in that direction have subdued or not. I don't know how great they would be without the movement. There's been no controlled study of that. But I think we have a long way to go yet.
Just in your own opinion, what are some of the ways you think we can improve how our students are learning, what they're learning in the classroom?
Well, I think more commitment to the students, not only on the part of the school itself, but parents. and other people dealing with the school. Let me explain why I think that's important. You know, we have more single-parent families now than we've ever had before. Used to, in the olden days, when both parents worked, it was basically to keep up with the Joneses, and now it's a survival skill. You know, both parents have to work to survive in many, many situations, to the point that the family unit's been threatened. It is much of what the youngster brings to school determines how well they can do. What the school can do to kind of serve as a buffer there is to utilize the many parents who can spend time not only with their own children but with other children as well. The term latchkey child has become a catchphrase, but it's presented a very interesting societal problem for us. Youngsters come to school without doing their homework because there's no one at home to help them with their homework. Dial-a-Teacher program has been something that we've tried to help with that. And we used to have homework centers where youngsters could stay after school and do their homework. Things like that, I think, we need to respond to societal changes. And we have not done a good job of that. We've been restricted in a lot of things we can do, but there are a lot of things we could do that we haven't done.
Well, I'll be looking to see those things in the future, and my feeling is that we're on the right track. Thank you very much for being on Folks.
My pleasure.
Time now for today's cultural feature. Art lovers from all over the world travel to Royal Street in New Orleans. There they can find antiques and objects of art to satisfy just about any taste and spending level. But if you were looking for the work of black artists, you might as well have been in Russia because it was as rare as hen's teeth. But that's changing now, mostly through the efforts of Jean-Paul Pinel, who saw the need for a gallery for black artists and went on to create La Belle Galerie. Now the works of Jacob Lawrence, Ernie Barnes, Varnett Honeywood, Tom Feelings, and countless other black artists are available to New Orleans visitors and natives alike.
La Belle Galerie looks very much like many other galleries in the historic New Orleans French Quarter, but it is unique to all of the other galleries on colorful Royal Street because it is the first and only gallery that features the work of black artists exclusively. The gallery is the brainchild of French immigrant Jean-Paul Pinel, who found the lack of an art gallery dedicated to black artists in a city with a majority black population a shameful oversight.
I was very surprised from the fact I've never seen any black art galleries in New Orleans, and I discovered that almost people were ignoring maybe black art, and I had requests for it, and I started to investigate on the national market to know where the black artists were, and little by little I could discover artists. And I started to be in contact with them, and they send me some of their work, and I test their work in my gallery, and little by little I start to have a larger selection, and I was doing well. And from that I had a dream to have a gallery which would be only specialized on black art.
Bernadette Gills, manager of La Belle Galerie, came to work there shortly after becoming a customer. A New Orleans native, she also found the lack of a black gallery disturbing.
For one thing, the population of black people, considering there's a significant percentage of blacks in New Orleans, there's definitely a need for some artistic expression by black artists. And since we've opened this gallery, the reception has been very good to it.
Since opening its doors, the gallery has received a warm welcome from shoppers on Royal Street. Their reactions range from mild surprise to incredulity.
In general, they're surprised because we see New Orleans people coming from all around the United States who apparently never had the chance to find a gallery, which can be in Washington, D.C. or in Texas, specialized with a large selection of black artists. So they appreciate it very much. And very often I have people who thank me for that, which I like.
First, awe. They're awestruck. Many of the people who come in, they look around, they scan the room 3 or 4 times, they make 5 and 6 trips so as to take in everything, and then they can make their selection. But first, they're awestruck.
We have a clientele which can be 20%, 25% white people who were not thinking maybe before to buy some black art, but who just appreciate it as art and buy it because they like it.
The opening of La Belle Gallery is beginning to have an impact on gallery owners, artists, and the community alike, which is just what the owners have been hoping for.
We'd like to provide the black community with a place to go and possibly see black life expressed artistically. Some place they could buy their gifts and things of that sort. You know.
I can say now, since I did that, a lot of people who are in the same business, which means art gallery, realize there is some black art now, and try to do the same, which is good anyway for the black community. I've seen also something which is interesting, all the artists around the square who were painting some subject, usual subject of St. Louis Cathedral or portrait, and since I opened this place, start to paint some black subject as musicians or something like that, which is interesting to see.
Well, we're out of time for today. Be sure to tune in next week for another edition of Folks. Bye-bye.
Funding for the production of Folks is made possible in part by a grant from Union National Life Insurance, serving Louisiana and the South since 1926, a family-managed corporation providing whole life insurance.